What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Me TV Reviews. I am your host, Mel, and tonight we're going to be discussing All Her Fault. This is episode 2 because this is a limited series, so just one season, all right? I hope you guys have had a wonderful weekend thus far, y'all. Without further ado, let's go ahead, get into the synopsis real quick, and then we're going to get right into this episode because it was raggedy, y'all. So the synopsis for this one is, as Detective Alcaras investigates Milo's disappearance, Marissa, with Jenny's help, works hard to raise awareness. A press conference turns ugly when questions are asked about the Irvines' past dealings. Business dealings. All right, y'all. Before we get started, I just want to go ahead and give y'all this public service announcement about how trash these men are in this episode, okay? Just a forewarning, okay? When I tell you, I had to text my friend within the first 15 minutes of this episode and was like, why are all the men trash? I'm not understanding. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the episode kicks off with a montage of Marissa and Peter bringing Milo home from the hospital, and they play the cutesy little music, and I know the name of the song, but I ain't gonna do it to y'all because it's late, okay? So when they got home, y'all, of course, you get into that rhythm where the baby is waking up, still trying to get adjusted to sleeping through the night or not, because he's super young, right? So he's going to wake up every couple of hours because he's hungry, he want to eat, and then he's going to go right back to sleep after he burped. And so they tricked the hell out of me, y'all, because in that initial setup, we saw Peter wake up, get up out the bed, and go fix a bottle for Milo in the middle of the night. Okay, so yeah, teamwork. Okay, we love that. Parenthood. All smiles, sunshine, and rainbows. Okay, but then the honeymoon quickly wears off because Milo don't have that new baby smell no more, and Peter is no longer that doting father, leaving Marissa to be an unofficial single parent. Y'all know how it go. Okay, so of course the man is sleeping like a bear, while the woman has to get up in the middle of the night, fix bottles, do the breastfeeding if that is a necessary thing, if they're not used to formula, if that's what you prefer. But either way, she's losing sleep, and she still has to put on her cape in the morning because guess what? She still gotta go to work. She still got work to do. I got work to do. But I want to go to sleep so bad. So bad. But you can't do that because as soon as you close your eyes for 2 seconds, y'all, that baby is right back up. And Peter ain't finna do nothing. So she does ask him for help, but it seems to fall on deaf ears because he was like, baby, now I got work to do too. Well, what about me? What about me and my needs, Peter? Okay. I want some sleep too. So we see her go through this period where and I might be skipping ahead a little bit in my notes, but we see her get it down to a science where Milo is seemingly starting to sleep longer and longer to the point where he eventually sleeps through the night. And he's like, oh baby, you're such a superwoman, you can do anything. And I was like, Peter, if you don't shut the hell up, just shut up. So coming back to their current reality, and Rissa is planning out their day to get the word out there about Milo with the police, all while Peter over there looking sus as hell checking his phone. Peter, who you talking to? Who you talking to? So Colin stops by again, and y'all, are we sure that they haven't tried it with each other in the past just to see, what could be? Because when he came over and he gave her that hug, now, I know, these circumstances call for a good cry, once you get into a good hug with the person, that you're most comfortable with. But that hug lingered just a little too long, y'all. Am I tripping? I'm still tripping, ain't I? It's okay. You can tell me. So we hop over to Jenny's, and I'm going to let y'all know, okay? I truly despise Richie. Full stop. That's it. Period. Now, When I tell y'all, her and Rissa are sisters of the same struggle, but Jenny's struggle is way worse because he is a useless, trash excuse of a man. We get a flashback to 1 month ago where her and Carrie are making Jacob's bed while Carrie plays with Jacob, playing peekaboo and, hey, Carrie, can you see me, Carrie? Can you see me, Carrie? Uh, I got you, Jacob. One of them type of situations, right? And it's a cute little moment. So then we jump back to the present, and Jenny is doing some quick tidying before she has to take Jacob to school. And so Jacob ends up asking her, "Hey, Mama, you gonna be able to drop me off?" And she was like, "Yeah, buddy." "Oh, you gonna be able to pick me up too?" "Yeah." "And you gonna be able to take me swimming, and we're gonna go to the park, and we're gonna get some ice cream." All the things that he normally does with Carrie. And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so here come Rich talking about some, "Oh, well, it's so good that you and Mommy are going to be able to get some more bonding time. What about you? Are you going to be able to bond with your son? Because it seems like you don't have time to do none of that at all." So the attention turns to rest of the week because she's trying to close out the client that she was so rudely interrupted with the other night. You remember, because Richie just couldn't figure out how to handle his own son for a couple of hours. So they trying to have this conversation about what's going to happen for the upcoming schedule. But y'all, Richie is so trash that he's not willing to compromise on missing this extra credit quiz team class that he's, quizzing or whatever. He got this class for. And so she was like, "Excuse me, you said you're not going to be able to reschedule this class or miss it? It's just one class. And it's not even part of the curriculum. This is an extra credit class." And he was like, "Yeah, but the students just really love the class and they're going to be disappointed if I can't make it or if we have to reschedule." Well, I tell y'all, I was fighting the air. Y'all. Just throw them away, Jenny. So they sit down with the detectives again, where they find out that Carrie ain't even Carrie. Come again? Say what? Yeah, no, See, her name, that address, her background references, all of that. Fraudulent. so they so they ended up asking, who did you find her in the yellow pages? Did you seek her out through like some other reputable nanny program, care.com or something like that? Did you do one of those? And she was like, "No, but I did speak to all the references, and I mean, I even spoke to some of the families that she took care of their kids prior to her coming over here with us. And I mean, they had nothing but good things to say." And I was like, well, I mean, it seems like she might have got some people to just give you some false information because, yeah, none of that is credible. And so, y'all, Rich had the audacity to let it slip through his lips. Wow. You didn't have some sort of mom's intuition to think that this was not accurate? You didn't have your spidey senses tingling to let you realize that this wasn't real? And so then Detective Alcaras was like, "Sir, did you speak to them? Did you get a chance to verify that these references were reputable?" "Well, no, I didn't. I usually just let Jenny handle that type of stuff. That's her department." Just stop being a parent, okay? Just stop. So they asked if they picked up on any abnormal behavior, and of course they say no. But she did ask for a day off about 2 weeks ago, but she never disclosed why. But whatever it was, she was gone all day. So when they leave them, we find out that that is the same day that Peter happened to take off as well. Speaking of, they're all getting ready to head to this press conference, right? And Leah comes over and she goes to go check on Brian. And it seems like they don't really like how Peter has been handling Rissa, especially last night. I'm definitely team Rissa. Okay, they are too. So Jenny drops Jacob off at school, and she happens to run into Sarah and the two messy crew. And Jenny had to walk them in because, everything that's going on with Milo, they want to make sure that all of the kids are, seen to their door, their teachers, just so we can make sure that another incident like this doesn't occur anytime soon, if ever. So when she's getting ready to head back to the car, she runs into Sarah, and it's Victor and some other broad that I'm not familiar with. But either way, they end up asking her, oh, hey, Jenny, how are you doing? Did you have any inkling that Carrie would do something like this? Has she ever displayed any of these behaviors previously? And she was like, no. I mean, she loved Jacob. Like, she was great with Jacob. And so then they ended up bringing up the fact that at the end of the day, I think they had ended up saying something about her going to support Rissa. And she was like, yeah, I was actually over there last night. And it was like, oh, really? And how did she handle it? What did she say? And so she's like, I mean, she's upset, rightfully so. Her kid is missing, but I mean, I'm gonna support her the best way that I can until we find Milo. And so I was like, are you sure you want to continue to do that? Because I mean, you are the source of all of this. If you hadn't hired Carrie, then none of this would have happened. You do understand that, right? And eventually the honeymoon phase and the glasses are going to come off, and she's going to eventually be pissed at you for what has happened to her son, and she's going to end up suing you. So it's best that you probably stay away from her for now. And so she's like, oh okay, whatever. She take it with a grain of salt. So on the way to the press conference, they passed this billboard with Milo on it, y'all, and it's so sad. It is so sad. And the camera pans to everybody in the car. Everybody's in their fields. So while they're waiting to speak to somebody, once they finally do arrive, they happen to notice that these reporters are also waiting outside, okay? But these reporters are kind of recording them and watching them. And so the scene definitely gets blown up when they end up receiving this prank call, right? So somebody calls Marissa and they're like, we have your son. But it's in one of those disguised voices, like the scary ones. And so she was like, who is this? So she puts it on speakerphone so Brian and them could hear. And you hear this other kid in the background talking about, dude, is that really her? So then she's like, what the hell is going on? So she starts to get emotional. They clearly take the phone and hang up. It's a prank. Why would somebody do that? But people do that all the time because they're sadistic. They're just crude. So anywho, they happen to notice now that the reporters are definitely recording her meltdown. And so Leah goes over and she starts talking crazy to them like, hey, you see that we're obviously in distress, that we're upset. Why are you doing this? So Leah started walking over there. Marissa has to walk away, and Peter is trying to check on her, but Marissa was like, you need to get your sister, okay, before she make this situation a whole lot worse. Now, I forgot to mention that when they made this prank phone call, they had mentioned something about their wedding, and so now they decide to Google their names. It turns out, y'all, that social media and all of this little detective sleuths have gotten a hold to their wedding pictures, and I mean, they have parent mixers at the kids' school. You didn't think that they came from a well-to-do family? So people are now, talking cash money because they have money in their pockets. And so anything bad that happens to them, most of the consensus is going to be, well, you deserve it because you're rich, right? And oftentimes the rich don't pay for whatever crimes they commit. So this is just karma for you. So Jenny, thankfully, is there to calm Rissa down. She was also in the car and she was listening to the radio right before she got to Rissa. And she heard these two people going back and forth. I don't know if it was a podcast or I think it was the news. And so, y'all, that was just snapping off on her and how she had such a lack of awareness when it came to who she was hiring, and this is all her fault, this, that, and the third, right? So she clearly got upset too. And so then she ends up running into Rissa, and she helps her, right? So she helps to She offers to help her get the website up because they wanted to put the website up along with a hotline. So if anybody had like an anonymous tip that they wanted to call in for Milo, they could. So in the process of her doing this, they're trying to get to know each other a little bit more. And we learned that Rissa doesn't really have a support system. I mean, well, she did have a support system. You know, she had her own set of friends, but then it was like when she got married to Peter, all of her people started slowly withering away. And we don't know if it's just because, you know, her focus was centered around Peter and just trying to create a family for herself, for a sense of family. And, you know, we don't know what caused the deterioration of those friendships, but either way, her only support system now is Peter and his friends and family. So it doesn't seem like that's very helpful. And I was like, did you forget about Collins? Ain't he your friend? Or did you meet him through Peter as well? So she ends up asking about Carrie and if she ever experienced or ever witnessed her, excuse me, y'all, if she ever witnessed her hurt Jacob. And so y'all remember last week, she didn't disclose that. She didn't say nothing about swatting at the fly this time. Instead, she was like, no, she was great with him, you know, and she gave this one example of how he had hurt his finger. And Jenny's initial response was to just go get a Band-Aid. Okay, I'm gonna kiss the boo-boo, put the Band-Aid on there, and make it better, right? But Carrie's idea of making it better was for her to create a whole stint for this hurt finger. So sweet, y'all. So Jenny quickly denies that, right? And she says, you know, Carrie is really good with him. And Jenny ends up bringing up the day, you know, there was this one day where she took off on the 25th. And I was like, how did we even get to here? But maybe I wasn't paying attention. So she said she was really good with him until that one particular day where she decided to go missing because she wanted to take a personal day, which, like I said, so happened to be the same day that Peter took off. So this gets Rissa to thinking, right? We get into this flashback of the day that Peter had took off, and she remembers this day exactly because she was begging him to take Milo to the daggone dentist. Okay, so apparently this dentist is pretty booked and busy, and you got to schedule like a far ways away out, you know, if you want to get seen anytime soon. So lo and behold, something came up to where they could schedule him, but this was the only day that they could take him. And so she was like, hey, Peter, can you take Milo to the dentist? And he was like, well, what about Anna? And she was like, no, because, you know, he's going to be eventually asking for me or you, and I'm swamped at work. So can you please just take him this one time? But he was like, nah, see, no, girl, I can't do that. Okay, it's going to be a hard pass for me because I have a conference at work that day. So I simply cannot do it. These parents. So after she remembers this encounter, her spidey senses get the tingling. And so she decides to call Peter's office to verify he was where he said he was on that day. And y'all, the assistant said, and the lie detector determined that was a lie. He just called out that day. He wasn't even at work. Peter, where did you go? So the detectives go speak to Anna, and she tells them that she didn't really know Carrie like that. You know, all the kids would go play at the same playground because that particular playground was right next to like this little Shake Shack, right, that all the kids love. So, of course, you know, yeah, I'm going to take my kid there because who doesn't love a good milkshake after we run around the playground? And so, I mean, that was the only time that we would typically run into each other, but I wouldn't say that me and her was friends like it. Like, we weren't besties or nothing, but we came in contact every now and then. She does also tell them about the 25th, and she said that Peter actually was at the house up until right before Milo and Rissa got back home from the dentist. Where did you go, Peter? So the siblings are sitting together at the conference waiting on it to start, right? And he has them scrub their social media platforms of any negative images, especially after this little blow up that Leah almost had with the reporters. He was like, yeah, no, we need to scrub everything because the people are already feeling a way about us and our lifestyle. We don't want to bring any more negative attention to this. We really want the people to focus on bringing Milo home. And so he takes the moment to be vulnerable with them. I don't know why that was so hard to get out. But he ends up telling them, in this moment he feels very helpless, and he just wants them to do all the things that would cause them to bring praise to him, okay, or at least take his mind off of what's going on right now. And as he's saying this, y'all, he ends up getting a text from an unknown number saying that they got his message and they're willing to talk. So he gives them being Leah and Brian the church finger to excuse himself. And once he's in a more private setting, aka outside, where nobody can hear him or step out on the terrace, whoever he's talking to agrees to his terms and conditions about a one-time financial transaction. And honestly, y'all, I think this is just a red herring. Okay? Because I was like, clearly you can't be talking to the person that kidnapped your kid, right? Clearly this isn't a ransom, but okay. So Rissa ends up calling Collins, right, to check in for any updates. But more importantly, she really want to call him to see if he knows anything about Peter cheating. Do you know anything about that? And so he was like, to be honest with you, I was like, are you going to tell her yeah? Are you really going to say yeah? He was like, to be honest with you, I wouldn't know. And I was like, wow, that really took you a long time to answer. So clearly he's doing something. And so she has to get off the phone because it's time for the press conference. All right. So at the press conference, the police say something. They speak their piece about Milo, and now it's time for the parents to speak. So Peter says something that I didn't really focus on. I don't care about none that come out his mouth. Rissa, she gets up there and she talks about how, she had planned so long for Milo. And, he finally was able to come home. I don't know if there were some complications after birth, because she did mention how she had to stay at the hospital as well. So I'm pretty sure there were some issues on both ends. But either way, when they finally got home, she swore that she would protect him at all costs. And clearly she has failed her son because he's not here with her. And so she starts to get upset, right? And just then, y'all, the reporters start asking questions. And these questions are not pertaining to Milo per se. These questions are more so about her personal life and her professional life, because then they start asking her about her business. Is it true that your business is in debt? Is it true that your business is being audited? This, that, and the third. And so she was like, no, my business isn't in trouble. We're just being audited, which is the normal for most businesses. And I mean, we not in the green, but that's to be expected too. So she's trying to over explain herself, and then another reporter ends up asking her, is it true that she had reached out to a publishing house about missing kids? And she was like, I mean, y'all are getting it misconstrued, okay? No, I reached out to an author from a publishing house because he had wrote a book about missing kids. And so I just wanted to get some more statistics so I could educate myself because my kid is missing. And so she's trying to explain herself, y'all. Peter clearly sees that this is going left, way left. And so he grabs her to have her walk away before she ends up digging her own grave a little bit more. So as she's walking away, she's getting upset and she lashes out at them, this is my son that's missing. I would never hurt him. And so, they catch that sound bite and they blow it up on the news and make it worse than what it seemed and what it was intended for. And so now she's cussing at the reporters and doing all this on the news. Meanwhile, he ends up taking her to like a private room, right? And she just like goes in with all her suspicions, Are you cheating on me? Who is it? And, where did you go on the 25th? You were missing this, that, and the third. Where were you? And so he ends up telling her, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he ends up telling her that he was at the neurosurgeon's office for Brian. Now, apparently, he had reached out to this neurosurgeon because they knew how to do a procedure for Brian, but it was going to be super costly. And so he just wanted to have this consultation first before he brought it back to her, brought it up to her, because we wanted to see if this was going to happen or not. But apparently it was going to be a no-go. Okay. So that's why he didn't even bring it up, because it wasn't going to happen no way. No harm, no foul. What you don't know won't hurt you. But in this instance, it's definitely sowing seeds of doubt and distrust. So he apologizes to her profusely, and it's like, boy, I don't know what to believe at this point. I think he's lying, y'all. But we'll see. Because if that's the case, then why were you asking Brian who was he talking to? And when he said the surgeon, yeah, what's that about? Because it's probably still going to be a go if that's the case. Now, Detective Alcaras speaks with Peter, and Peter ends up disclosing more information about the appointment. And like I said, he said that he had talked to the neurosurgeon, but because it was the neurosurgeon had declined to do the procedure, it was a wash. And he also discusses more about his family dynamics. So it turns out that he takes care of Brian and Leah. Now, he employs Brian. Brian works for him. Okay. But Leah doesn't have a job. Now, she has the self-proclaimed title of interior designer, decorator, whatever. But the last job that she got hired on for was to design the inside of their house. She hasn't had a job since. And so, he says, Leah, she's a good time to be around. Yeah, most people find her attractive, this, that, and the third, but she can be a handful. She's quite wild. I know she looked like, she okay and all, but really, she probably needs to be on some meds. And he also throws it out there as a little bite that Leah's the reason why Brian has his current medical condition. There was an accident. We don't hear the details of it. I'm sure it'll be addressed in the coming episodes. Now, once Detective Alcaraz leaves from speaking with Peter, he ends up calling his partner, right? And so he was like, yeah, so I'm not really sure what's going on with this. And he was like, so are you thinking that maybe Carrie and Peter were having an affair and this is like an inside job? And he was like, I don't know. I'm not quite sure yet. And besides, his alibi checked out or whatever. So I'm not just sure quite yet. But he tells his partner that he's finna get ready to head into the office. And he was like, actually, no, you're not. You finna come out here with me because we just found Carrie's car in the middle of nowhere. Okay. And this basically confirms that this is a 2-person job, like we thought it was. So then Jenny and Marissa are at the house, right, when she ends up getting a phone call from the Marble Slab Creamery place. This is the place where I forgot to tell y'all this. So Milo's birthday is coming up, and for his birthday, he had asked them to get a specific flavor type of cake for his birthday. And so Peter had called them and left a voicemail. And, they said they would get back as soon as they could. Well, now's the time. And it's awful time. And so Jenny is trying to handle this phone call, and she was like, look, we don't need your services. And so she's trying to she's trying to promote some more stuff, and Jenny just ends up hanging up on her. Okay. So then they get to talking, and we find out that the flavor that he wanted was just actually like malted. It's like a malted ice cream malted shake. I'm not sure. I don't know how you're going to get that on a cake, but okay. Stranger things have happened. I mean, if ice cream cakes exist, then sure, why not? So they start talking, and we find out that the both of them have in common that they both have given Anna and Carrie cards to use for when they have the kids with them, right? So they won't have to come out of pocket and they won't have to give them access to their accounts per se. They can just, like preload this card or whatever they do, right? So they both look at some of the transactions because the 25th had came up, and so they start looking at the transactions for both of them, and it turns out that they've been going to the same milkshake place. They've been going to different places together with the boys. They've been friends for quite some time, probably since we saw them at the beginning of the school year. So now that they figured that out, we come back to Carrie, y'all, and Carrie is trying on a new her, okay? She's got a new wig, she's got a new attitude. She's trying to disguise herself, okay? And so Milo comes running out and he's talking to her, and he was like, "Oh girl, you got some new hair. I like that." And she was like, "Yeah, I mean, I did such a good job with me. How about we try the same with you?" And he was like, "No, I think my mama will be mad. I don't think she'll like that." So he's under the assumption that he's going to be getting back to his mom, and I really do hope so, y'all. I really hope that no harm, no foul comes to this boy. So after he said that they're blasting the whole thing on the news about Rissa's meltdown with the reporters and the whole thing about her reaching out to the publishing house, and now they're throwing out the theory that she's using Milo's disappearance for money to get her company back in the green because, they're going through some financial woes right now. So there's a knock at the door, and it's the lady who owns or runs the motel that Carrie is currently residing in. So it turns out Carrie had actually checked in on the 25th. Okay, and she's been there ever since. And so she was like, "Hey girl, I was just stopping by because, I heard that you said that you need the second key." And so as she's saying this, Carrie's got the door not wide open, but it's open wide enough for her to see the TV. And so she was like, "Oh, okay." She's putting it together in her head like, "Girl, you look real familiar. You look like that lady on the TV." But, she's trying to play it cool and not say nothing, knowing she probably going to go back to the front and call the people, as she should. If she doesn't, it's something wrong. So she was like, "Hey girl, so I'm just dropping off this key." And she was like, "Yeah, because I'm expecting somebody." And that's the way the episode ends, y'all. Pretty good second episode, okay? Who do y'all think is doing all of this? Now, I still do feel like Colin might be a suspect, but I also feel like Leah might have something to do with this too. And Sarah, girl, don't think that I forgot about you, okay? Everybody is a suspect at this point, aside from Jenny and Rissa. Now, initially, when I was throwing out theories to my friend, I was like, you know what if this has already happened? What if Milo is just the figment of her imagination at this point? What if this is all in her head? What if this is... It better not be for no book, y'all. I don't think that's what it is. But everybody is a suspect aside from Jenny and Rissa at this point. Y'all let me know what y'all thought about it, okay? You can reach me at Me and You TV Reviews on Facebook and on Instagram. You can also reach me at My TV Reviews Podcast without the S on the end at gmail.com. Can I just go ahead and give y'all a shout out? Because I see the ratings have been coming through for Spotify. I appreciate that, y'all. If you want to leave comments on Spotify, you can. Let me know how you're feeling about these shows that I'm reviewing. On Apple, if you want to leave a review, you can do that too. If not, just share it, okay? I love y'all. Y'all have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Y'all stay safe out there. And until we meet over the airwaves again, I am Mo, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.